out there? Ready. What do you expect from this weekend? Everything. At this point, you don't know. We got you hugging people like you've known them for 20 years, right? It's really my privilege to be with you. I'm very excited about this weekend and getting a chance to spend time with you for 2.5 days. And hopefully over the next 9 months, a good number of us will be spending time together and producing some phenomenal results in our lives, both in the practice that you own or a part of, really producing measurable results there and your ability to really reach patients, not just to produce results in terms of healing them, but maybe making the process a lot more enjoyable for people. Because I used to be one of those people that used to like, produce results, give me a goal, I'll break through, I'll make it happen now. Nothing stops me. But then I got these results, and after I got them, my brain said things like, is this all there is? How many of you have ever been through this process? I'm curious. And if you don't raise your hand, you lie about other things too. Bottom line is, I one day got this aha experience which said, life is a process, not an outcome. I was so outcome-oriented. So I'm not any less committed to producing results, but what I realized, I'm going to spend more of my life in the process of moving towards an outcome or a result, and I better learn to really enjoy that. Because I don't want to be one of those people that, quote-unquote, is successful and totally unhappy. And I have the good fortune now, because of the number of people I've worked with now, almost 250,000 in person, that I get to work with some of the, quote-unquote, most successful people in the culture one-on-one, assisting them in making some personal changes. And some of the people that seem to be so successful inside are torn up. And in the profession that you've all selected, which I have ultimate respect for because it's my profession as well, and that's really being a healthcare professional, being somebody who cares about people and wants to make a difference, we've also selected one of the most stressful environments we could possibly be in. Because people come to us in pain, emotional pain, physical pain, psychological pain. And when people are in pain, they don't always look at how to treat us the best. They're looking about how to get their needs met. And we're supposed to be the givers. And some of you out there, I know, give so much that sometimes it leaves a little feeling of emptiness inside. And what I really want to do this weekend is hopefully be a giver to you to the best of my ability and our team here, and show you how to give more to yourself. And we're going to show you over the next 2.5 days, and certainly over the next 9 months, how to produce measurable results, doctors, in your practice in terms of dollars and cents. And over the next 2 days, not so much today, we're going to give you plenty of detailed information on how to really make that work. Things that will clarify things for you, things that will make producing the kind of results you want economically, so you have the financial freedom you went to school for 12 years for, or 8. But so that really does happen, and where it's measurable and we can get ongoing support to follow through on those details. Because that's important. I know when I first got involved in what I was doing, I didn't do it to, quote-unquote, make money, although I certainly wanted to do well financially, so I could do well by my family. And sure enough, I went out there and I just wanted to help people. And then I realized, gosh, you have to, like, have this company to do that kind of stuff if you want to reach a lot of people. And then I realized you have a company, it means you got to hire people. And you hire people, then you got, like, all these interesting laws. And when you do that, then you got people that take advantage sometimes. And you have people that give their all and don't get acknowledged, and all that stuff that came along with it. After building and doing about 270 seminars a year, every day, pulling out and giving 1,000% of myself, where one of my partners embezzled $250,000 and ran my company $758,000 in debt. And I had what I call an aha experience, Because when you give your all day long and then that kind of thing happens, you can sit there and feel sorry for yourself. And everybody, by the way, told me I have to go bankrupt. There's no way to turn it around. It's over. And I have this core belief inside me that says there's always a way if you're committed. And that one belief got me through it. Because instead of giving up, I kept saying, how do we turn this around? And then I said, maybe I need to ask a better question. Not how do I turn this around, but how to turn this around and make it better than it ever was. And I took my company from a position where it was really just me, like a lot of you doctors out there, i.e. if you stop, the practice stops. You can't do it without your staff, but you're still the person that's got to produce. We all know that. And where I was literally hostage to my business, to now where I do over $50 million a year in sales in seminars. And I'm not there for most of them. And yet I still have the sense of contribution that is so important, where people come up to me all over the country, walk up to me in airports and everywhere, 5 to 15 people a day, and say, man, you changed my life. That's kind of exciting. And if you want to expand the point of having that kind of leverage, over the next 9 months, we're going to show you how to do that. So I, first of all, respect you for taking the time and energy, doctors for starters, because I know you don't have a whole lot of time as it is. You give your all. So I respect you, and I want to make sure that you get what you came here for. And staffs, all of you in various levels of staff, doctors need to realize they can't do anything without you. And what we're going to really teach these doctors is how to get out of your way, and how to give you the control and power you deserve to make this thing work. Because the doctor should focus on what he's doing, and you together need to come together and create a plan a plan that makes sense, a plan that produces results, a plan that is emotionally rewarding, a plan for the staff that's financially rewarding. And we're going to make some suggestions where the doctor can see by your adding more value, you can potentially earn more. So we want to make sure that that happens for you as well. But most importantly, that all of you feel like you're contributing and making a difference, and you have that sense of purpose and meaning in what you do. And we want to certainly get to the point where the doctor is listening and working with you if he isn't already, or increases that capacity. Because I know for a lot of you, you might say, well, this isn't my practice, it's his. And you've given up your weekend here. So we want to make sure that what comes out of this for you is, again, a greater sense of contribution. Hopefully over the 9 months, maybe a greater change in your economics as you contribute more to other people in the practice. And most importantly, maybe a bond. Because what we're going to find is that nobody is an island. I'd love to say that all the quote-unquote success I've had the privilege to have in my life came because I was so brilliant. But the truth is because I surrounded myself with some pretty phenomenal people. And I think that everyone in this room can probably appreciate that in their own life. So we want to create that stronger bond. So today is really a discovery process. And today is about finding out, how do we get more juice out of our life? How do we experience more of what we really want? And we're excited about this program, and we're also challenged. My challenge is that the material that I've been gathering and mastering of the science we're literally going to teach you, I've been gathering over almost a 10-year period of time. And I want to give you as much as possible today before we even take you to lunch, because there's so many foundations to lay. So today will be the push day. The rest of the day will be easy by comparison. So if you'll stretch yourself, you'll get a ton out of it. And our excitement is we found a way to really make that work for you, where you can get the results and enjoy the process. Also, I'll tell you, quite honestly, I'm very excited to see all the ladies in this room. This is fantastic. Because the last 6 groups I've spoken to have been all male CEO groups, which kind of made me upset, because I thought, all the CEOs, not one woman here. It's not a very good representation of women in our culture. But I was reading the Wall Street Journal the other day that women in America now control 80% of the wealth in this country. How do you feel about that? Look who's clapping, guys. The article also said they have easy access to the other 20%. There are 2 sides to every story, though, right? Recently, I was asked to speak for the YPO, the Young Presidents Organization. And if you're not familiar with the YPO, to become a YPO member, you have to become president of your own company before the age of 40. And I think now the minimum is you have to do $30 million a year in sales, and you have to have at least 50 employees. And most of the people in this particular organization produce revenues over $100 million a year in business, so they're substantial businesses. There are only 5,000 members in the world of this organization. If you put these 5,000 people together, presidents of companies, et cetera, the companies that they own and run, and you made all the dollars that they generate, those companies put together, made them a country, they'd be number 8 in the world in GNP. One of the single most influential groups of people, at least in business in the world. And once a year, they hold this big university program where they bring everybody down for a week, and they bring in the quote-unquote best speakers in the world. And I got the privilege of being there for a week and speaking to them on various subjects. And picture this, though. I'm supposed to go down to Mexico City for a week and teach these men and women how to become more successful. I thought to myself, I'm going down there to learn. I'm not going down there to teach, right? So I go there and I take lessons, I go to everybody else's classes. I'm taking people to lunch. I'm picking brains because I'm a student. I'm always studying how to make things better, how to improve the quality of my life for other people. So I'm trying to learn everything I can. And how many of you believe that whatever you focus on, whatever you expect, you tend to experience in life? How many believe that? Well, I kept focusing how I didn't want to leave, and sure enough, my plane got canceled. I don't know if there's any connection there, but I do know one thing. I live in San Diego. I'm in Mexico City. I have no way to get home. They've got this weird flight that has to go all the way out over to Dallas and circle back around. And so the bottom line is I'm trying to figure it out. I'm talking to a friend of mine. His name is Ken Blanchard. Some of you may have read his book. He wrote a book called The 1 Minute Manager. Ken's a good friend of mine. He lives in San Diego, too. I took 15 strokes off Ken's golf game the first time I met him, which tend to make us very good friends. Teaching some of the techniques that I'll show you this weekend that affect performance. Very powerful changes. Anyway, we're talking about how to get home. This man walks by and he goes, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Robbins. I said, yeah. He said, listen, I want to talk to you. He said, because I love all your classes. All this material, he said, it's really unique. It's different. It's not the same old stuff. And he said, I couldn't help but overhear your problem. He said, if you'd be willing to help me, I think I could help you out. I said, how's that? He said, well, he said, if you'd be willing to talk to me, he said, I think I could solve your problem. I said, how could you do that? He said, well, I have a private jet. If you're willing to talk to me, I'd be willing to fly you home. I said, okay. Here I am flying on this guy's private G3 jet, right? Well, he picks my brain and he can become more successful. I kind of like that. And then after a few minutes go by, I said, okay, stop. My ego's been stroked enough. I said, look, I don't know if you're really successful. You're successful financially, but that's not enough to be successful. I don't know what you're like really emotionally. I don't know how you are with your wife and your kids. I don't know what you're like spiritually. I said, but you're quite successful in financial terms, so let me talk to you about that. I said, tell me, out of everything you've studied and learned in business over the last 10 years, what's the single most important thing you could tell me that would take me to the next level economically in my business? He turned to me, didn't hesitate a heartbeat, looked me right in the face and said, Tony, never mistake the power of a woman to influence your career and economics. I said, that's the single most powerful thing you can share with me. I usually crack a joke in my seminar about that, stir people up, right? He said, absolutely. He said, my wife is totally responsible for making me a millionaire. I said, well, was she here at the classes, for this week? I didn't meet her. He said, no. I said, well, is she like at home running some of your companies? He said, no. I said, did she like put you through law school? He said, no. I said, how could you say that? He said, trust me, she's totally responsible for making me a millionaire. I said, if you really believe that, I just have one question for you. He said, what's that? I said, would you loan her out? He said, no. I said, what were you before you met her? What were you before you met her, but, before you got together? He said, I was a multi-millionaire. Now I got the guys, I got to report back to the guys now, right? All the women are going, hey, get out of here, Robbins. I like to start out by getting both sides mad. You're much more fun that way, see? If there's one thing that can change your life as a principle, that if you wanted to change anything tomorrow, that you might want to remember, it's simply this, something I call concentration of power. Concentration of power says this, if you focus on something every single day, and you ask yourself, how can I improve it? And you demand from yourself that somehow it has to get better, you will master that area of focus. I don't care what it is. See, Michael Jackson can move the way he does and make these neat little spins because every single day since he was how old? 5 years old. And every single day, I got a chance to meet him. The question he asks himself, he works out 6 days a week dancing and has been doing it since he was 5. And the question he asks is, how can I make this better? We're going to teach you over the course of this day that the questions you ask yourself on a consistent basis control your mental focus, how you feel, and what you do in your life. The problem is that many of us have habitual questions that we ask that destroy our capabilities. See, if when they came and told me I was $758,000 in debt, I asked the same questions as the people around me, which were things like, what do we sell first? What do we do to start bankruptcy? If I would ask those questions, I certainly wouldn't have my business, which to me is like one of my children. It's my way of going out and reaching so many people. It's part of the legacy that's important in my life. I wouldn't have that, but instead I asked, how do I turn this around? How do I turn this around and make it better than it ever was? See, oftentimes I hear people say, gosh, you know what, I can never lose weight. And I say, well, let me ask you a question. When you think about losing weight, what do you say to yourself? And people say things, well, I ask myself, how come I can never lose weight? Ask and you shall what? That's right, and that's very literal. If you ask yourself, what's really lousy in my life? You'll come up with things. Right? I mean, you will. I don't care who you are. If you keep asking that question, you can find something, right? What's really terrible in your life, right? You can come up with it. But if you ask yourself what's great in your life, you can come up with an answer there too. See, if you want to lose weight, you don't want to ask, how come I can never lose weight? Your brain will go, because you're a pig. What would be a better question to ask yourself if you want to lose weight? What would it be? How can I lose weight? But then, of course, your brain might say, go on a diet, and then your brain goes, diets are painful. Right? Think of the first 3 letters in the word diet. What does it spell? That's a clue. A better question might be, how can I lose weight now and enjoy the process? So if you learn to enjoy the process, you'll come up with something. If you keep focusing on how to lose weight and enjoy the process, you'll come up with an answer. And as you do, you not only lose weight, but you'll enjoy yourself. So concentration of power is basically what has shaped my life for the last 10 years. And so I've studied about people, what makes people work, and the first person I started with was me. And it came out of my pain. Because I found long ago there are 2 things that shape all of our behaviors, that determine everything you and I do. Everything we do, I don't care what it is, whether it be coming to this seminar or going out and spending time with the person you love most in the world, it always comes down to 1 of 2 things. You do things either, number 1, out of your need to avoid pain. That's it. Or out of your desire to gain pleasure. Those are the 2 reasons why we do anything. It's a big, giant generalization, but understanding that can help you to change yourself or anyone else. Everything you do out of your desire to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. By the way, which one do you think is more of a motivating force in most people's lives? Avoiding pain. And if you're, for example, in the dental business, you need to handle this, don't you, with your patients? Because that's one of the reasons they don't come in. And we're going to show you some techniques and ways to do that. If you're in the medical business, people come to you when they're in pain. A lot of times they try to avoid you until they're in pain. A lot of us only get to see people at that point. But it goes beyond that. It goes to everything that we do. I'll give you an example. Ladies in the room, raise your hand if you're wearing makeup. If you're wearing makeup, can I see your hands? Look at this. Drop your hands. Raise your hand if you're not wearing makeup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women in a room of 400 plus people. That's pretty exciting. How come all these women put on makeup? Why'd you guys do that? How many of you did it because you woke up this morning and said, gosh, I love this process? Let me see a show of hands here. Come on. No, I didn't see that. One woman on drugs. Okay. All right. Nobody else. How many of you ladies put on this morning because you may not have wanted to, you're kind of tired or, running around. You didn't necessarily want to put on the makeup, but the reason you did it is in the back of your head, your brain says, well, if I put it on, I will feel more attractive or other people will feel more attracted to me, i.e. pleasure. How many did it for that reason? Let me see your hands. How many of you woke up this morning and thought to yourself, or have done this before, how come men don't have to do this? Come on, how many of you ever asked that question? How many of you did it though anyway? Let me see a show of hands, did it anyway? And the reason is your brain said, if I don't put this makeup on, somebody's going to say, what happened to your face? How many did it for those reasons? Come on, let me see some honest women in the room. Look at all these honest women, I'm impressed. How many did it for a combination of these reasons? Okay? The point is, everything you did, you're at the seminar. You came to the seminar because your brain said, hey, coming here I might enjoy myself, or you came here because you thought if I don't come here, my doctor will be upset with me. Called avoiding pain, right? Some combination of those two. And so what we want to do is show you in your life, here's my definition of success. I used to have these definitions of success about, you change the world and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? I was out there changing the world, but I wasn't feeling really great inside because I was burning out. And I was totally burning out inside. And so, boy, everybody loved me, and I was doing the difference, but inside just torn up. And what I realized is I was real big on helping other people to feel a lot of pleasure and little pain. Saw somebody in pain, I want to help them get out of pain. But I did so much of it, there was nothing left of me, so I'm walking around in pain, making everybody else feel good. How many can relate to this someplace in your life or your business? I'm curious. So I have a new definition of success. My definition of success is real simple. If you're really successful, you experience tons of pleasure in your life, very little pain. I mean, some's inevitable, and sometimes we need it to motivate ourselves, I guess. And the way you live your life causes the people around you to experience tons of pleasure and very little pain. See, if you're doing that, you're really successful. And if you're not, I got a question. Was John Belushi successful? On the outside, maybe. He was able to make other people feel really good. He wasn't able to make himself feel very good. That's why he's no longer here. Right? Marilyn Monroe, good example. And we can go through the list, right? All the people we can think of that seem to quote-unquote have it all, but aren't here. And so what I found in my life, and what we're going to talk about today, are really what I think are the 5 lessons of life mastery. Because there are only about a handful of issues that if you handle these issues in your life, everything works. And if you don't, you got some major problems. I'll tell you what they are. Number one of all that you've got to master, if you really want your life to work, is you must learn how to master your emotions. You must master your emotions. Not be at the effect of them. And that does not mean manipulate them. That does not mean be in a position where you're not honest with yourself or with your feelings. Mastering your emotions means you're in charge, that you're getting what you really want out of your life. You're getting the emotions and feelings that you really want while you're here. Hey, why did you start your practice, doctors? What'd you do it for? You can give me all these intellectual reasons, but what you're going to find out is you started because you wanted certain feelings. And those feelings you linked up you could get if you help people in that way. And are you getting those feelings? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's other things getting in the way. See, most people have not learned how to master their emotions. Elvis Presley never learned to master his emotions. How many drugs was he taking simultaneously? He had all this acclaim and all these people that loved him, worshiped this gentleman, and yet he was a wreck inside. And we can name example after example after example. If you don't handle this, you can have all the success on the outside world at all. We can show you how to make your practice work. There is no doubt about it. How? We're going to teach you something called modeling. We're going to teach you people that have succeeded. We've taken people over and over again and help people's practices to grow from 1/3 their size to doubling their size in 12 to 18 months. This is not some pipe dream. And as you see over the next 2 days, you'll see it's very specific and very real. And to take away your fear, doctors, does not require a ton more of your time or energy. Does not. It can be done. But you know what? If we do all that stuff, and you got all the success, but you don't have the emotional success, you say, oh, get my practice like that. I'll handle the emotions. Wrong. It won't happen. You'll just come up with a new set of challenges. So we all deserve to feel the feelings we want most. So today we're going to work on some emotional mastery. And tomorrow and the next day we'll work on the business. And by the way, if you have more emotional mastery, do you think it'll affect the practice, yes or no? Will it affect your ability to impact your patients, yes or no? You better believe it. Some people can be healed just by your presence. Some people just want to connect with you anyway. That's why they come to see you. I mean, think about it. They have all these aches and pains and things that are there, but really they just want somebody who cares to listen to be there. We've all experienced that. Second major lesson that we got to master is the one we're all in the business of, and that is physical mastery. Mastering our physical body. So that what we're teaching here, what we want our practices to become, maybe it's not practices, but care centers where we're teaching people how to really be healthy, not just fixing them, not just getting them out of dis-ease, but literally teaching someone how to be proactive. And now, of course, the better you do that, the more you teach someone to think about their health, to value their health, to do things to support before there's a problem, also the bigger your practice is. The more value you add to people. If all you do is help people get out of dis-ease, then your practice is probably going to be limited. But if you can show people how to become oriented towards health and maintenance and support, you're helping people at a higher level and your practice will grow. And you'll have more enjoyment because you'll have more of a relationship with the people you know. But it also comes thus, doctor, heal thyself. We've got to make sure that we really take care of our own physical bodies, and not only our physical bodies, but our energy level. Because a lot of us don't realize, but the way we think, the way we move, affects our health as much as anything else. The way we move can change the way we feel emotionally. We're going to show you how to do that. Third major lesson, we've got to master our relationships. We've got to master our relationships. We've got to get to the point where we realize that no person's an island, and if we know that intellectually, emotionally know that we can connect with anybody we want in a heartbeat. Even somebody who a moment ago was judging you, didn't like you, wasn't connected with you. And we're going to show you over the next couple sessions how to really connect with people at a nonverbal level. So when they first meet you, they don't know why, but they like you. How many of you have ever met somebody from across the room? First moment you saw them, you felt connected to them like you knew them, and you never met them before. How many have had that experience? What we've done, and what I do, is something called modeling. And modeling says this, that if anyone in the world produces a result, I don't care what that result is, some action is being taken mentally or physically to produce that. If you take the same kinds of actions, you'll produce the same kinds of results. And what we're going to do is study specifically how to duplicate some of the success of people around us who we respect, both on the business side, which is what we'll teach you over the numbers and how to put together your game plan, also on the emotional side. Can you think of somebody that you know of in your life who has every reason in the world to be upset with life? Maybe they got a bad deal, maybe there's just some physical tragedy or malady. But somehow Sam seems to be incredibly happy in spite of it. How many know somebody like this? How many know somebody who has everything going for themselves, but has this tremendous resentment towards life or people and is frustrated and unhappy all the time? How many know somebody like that? So I guess the thing we might want to get out of this is real simple. That if we really want to succeed at the highest level, we've got to realize it's not what's going to happen in our life that's going to make us happy. It's who we become as people and how we connect with others. Our relationships in the end are going to make the difference. I don't know anybody who came to the end of their life and said, gosh, I didn't spend enough hours at the office. But I know a lot of people say, I didn't connect with my children as strongly as I could. Or I was there at the office, but I didn't connect with people. That person was so nice, and I was just so into my own world and getting the job done that I didn't make that connection happen. Or, gosh, this woman or this man worked with me in my practice for 10 years, and I really didn't know them. I did, but I didn't. I didn't take care of them the way I could have. See, there's one or two pains we all have in life. The pain of disciplining our mind, our emotions, and getting ourselves to follow through, or the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. So we want to show you how to bond and how to influence people in a very positive way in relationships. And of course, to really understand other people's relationships, you've got to have a good relationship with yourself. We're going to work on that. Fourth area, got to master money. And money certainly isn't everything. But how many have noticed when it isn't around, you notice it a lot? Now, I grew up in a very poor family. And a lot of what I'm committed to in my life came out of the pain that I saw in my own family financially and the emotional impact on that. You know, I remember my mom and dad arguing on a regular basis, I mean intensely, and I noticed most of the arguments were not about excess capital. And I looked around at that, and I swore I wouldn't go through that. I'll never forget when I was, I guess somewhere in the age of 9, 10, 11, right in that range, probably 11, we had a Thanksgiving, we had no money and no food. And a family or a local organization coming and knocking on the door and bringing us this big box of food, and my dad not wanting to take it, but having to, and what that did to him inside, and what that did to me inside, seeing him have to go through that. I swore that I would never do that, that money would never be a question in my life. I was never going to let some outside thing affect the relationships and the quality of my life. And I committed also at that time that I would go out and I would take care of other people like we were taken care of. So sometimes out of a painful experience, good things have happened, because since I was 18 years old, every Thanksgiving, what I do on Thanksgiving is go out and feed people. And now because of my influence, thousands and thousands of people go out and do the same thing. all because somebody helped me out in a tough time. So pain isn't always bad. But the point is, money can have an impact. And, I thought that was the solution, so I really worked really hard on it. In a very short period of time, at a very young age, I was so committed because I didn't want the pain that I went out and became quite successful financially. I was written up in newspapers and magazines. I was this entrepreneur. They called me Wonder Boy. My ego exploded. By the time I was 19, I was making $10,000 a month in personal income. And, all this great, quote-unquote, success, because I figured success was purely money-oriented. And by the way, will money solve all your problems? I thought it would it? No, but at least if you have enough money, you can arrive at your problems in style. Pull up in your limousine and handle your problem, it's a different world, trust me, okay? Land my helicopter at my problem, I like that, But the truth of the matter is, I went out and I made all this money, right? Now I was being real successful and things are really going. But there's an interesting thing about human beings. We only get to keep what we think we deserve, financially, emotionally, relationships, anything. And inside every one of us, we have this little thermostat. It's unconscious, it's not conscious, but it's like a thermostat on the wall. If I set that thermostat on the wall at 78 degrees, and all of a sudden the temperature drops in here, gets down to maybe 72, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? That's right, heaters are going to kick on, right? Because the brain goes and the computer says, hey, this is not good enough. This is not where I belong. My relationship needs to be more close than this. We're not close enough right now. It's not where it belongs. Or my income is not where it needs to be. This is painful. I got to do something to change it. Or, I'm not as connected with my kids where I need it to be. We have this idea of where things need to be. And when it's not there, boy, the heaters kick on and we get the drive to change things, don't we? And so we do that. But what most people don't realize is that because we have this idea that we're at 78 degrees, when things start really doing well, the same thing happens. What happens if this room's set at 78 degrees and it starts cooking in here? We start really cranking, making things happen. We get up to 82, 83 degrees. What happens? The heaters stop and you lose your drive. And then the air conditioners kick on to bring you right back down to where you think you deserve to be. And you usually sabotage your own success. How many of you here have ever sabotaged your own success? Let me see a show of hands. Interesting. Me too. And I did it on a major scale. Because anything I do it like full out, including failure. It was great. I just went out there and I decided, okay, how can I screw up royally? I didn't do it consciously, I did it unconsciously. I started not showing up for key meetings. I started treating people harshly that didn't deserve to be treated harshly. It wasn't about them at all. I never took drugs or alcohol because I always valued my body. But, I ate food. I used food like it was a drug. I gained 38 pounds in 2.5 months. That is not easy to do. You have to eat tons of food and not move very much to pull that off. I managed to do that, right? I got to the point where I lost everything financially, lost my home, moved into a little 400 square foot bachelor apartment in Venice, California, in a place you would not want to live. No kitchen, washing my dishes in the bathtub. Waking up each morning feeling sorry for myself with 2 major goals. What am I going to eat today? And what's going to happen to Luke and Laura on a program called General Hospital? The same thing I used to thrash other people about watching, right? I'm in there, what's going to happen today, right? I mean, my goals had changed, as you can guess, right? And the reason I'm here is because I had a friend who came and saw me, who I had not seen for a long time. And the reason he came to see me, one reason, is because he couldn't call me on the phone because my phone was disconnected. Bangs on the door. I got a nice big pot belly. I have beard growing. I don't shave. My hair is growing out and stuff, and I open the door going, yeah? He looks at me and goes, Tony? And I realized who it was. I went, oh, hi. He said, well, can I come in? I said, do you really want to? He said, yeah. So I opened the door, and my room is not much bigger than this stage. He looks around the room, right? He says, Tony, where do I sit? I said, well, just scoop those Cheetos out of the cushions on the couch there and have a seat there, right? He sits down and he says, what happened to you? What happened to Wonder Boy? I said, he died. My new nickname is just Boy. I said, I tried all that stuff that we talked about, all that personal development stuff, I read all those books and everything else, but it doesn't work. He said, come on, what do you mean, Tony, it works? You've always made it work. What's the deal? I said, no, it doesn't. I tried it all. I read 700 books in the area of human development. I went to all these seminars. I tried it all. This is the rewards I got, so I'm not trying anymore. I was real intense. I was jaded. So he said, oh, come on, Tony, what have you done recently? What have you really used? I said, I tried goals last Thursday. They didn't work. He said, come on. It takes more than that. He said, it's ironic. I was coming to see you because I wanted to share something with you that could change your whole life. He said, I figured I'd share it with you because you'd share it with other people. But everything in life happens for a reason. It's obvious I'm here because you need this for you. He was one of those soft communicators. So I said, what are you talking about? And he started telling me about all this technology, some of which I'm going to be sharing with you this weekend. about how to condition the way your nervous system causes you to respond to people and things. Literally how to change your behavior. Technology unlike anything else I'd ever heard of. But as he told me, I was so jaded, right? I was really on staying where I was. So I said, you know, I've heard all the seminars. I've been to all the seminars. I said, come on. I said, tell me. This is just like all the other seminars, right? I said, there's only 3 kinds of seminars in the world. Tell me, is it one of these 3? Is it number 1, positive thinking? Is it? And he said, no. I said, good, because I got too many problems for positive thinking. It's hard to think positive when you got an elephant sitting on your face, and I got that many problems. He said, it's not positive thinking. I said, oh, great. Then it's probably one of those seminars where they teach you how to become totally centered. You know the type, don't you? Where they teach you how to smile real big while hell is breaking loose around you. They teach you, you know, how when people ask you, how's it going, you're supposed to say, unbelievable. Because, see, that covers both ends of the spectrum, right? Or they teach you how to, like, sit in a chair and cross your legs and breathe in certain ways. And I said, I did that. And I mean, totally centered while they came and removed my furniture. I said, but I don't want to be centered anymore. He said, well, it's not about being centered. I said, oh, great, there's one other kind of seminar left. You all know the type, don't you? The kind that started in California. The type where they put you in a room and said, you want to know why you're really not succeeding? You get to the edge, you're about to break through, and then you fall back. You want to know why? Because deep down inside of you, you have these unspoken upsets. That's right. These things that have happened with other people where they've told you things or done things with you you're angry about, but you didn't tell them. You kept it inside, and now your brain's angry at you. And the only way you're to heal this is you're supposed to go up to those people and tell them how you really feel. You're supposed to run up to them and say, I hate your guts! And this is supposed to make you feel very good. I don't know about your poor friend here, but it's supposed to make you feel very good, right? Or they put you in a room and they tape up the doors, right, and call you 4-letter words and not let you urinate for several days. Right? I said, I tried that. I'm not making fun of it. I went through it. It was real valuable. My life still wasn't working. He said, Tony, no, this is really different. I said, how do you know? He said, well, because they let you urinate in these seminars. I said, good. That's moving in the right direction at least, right? He said, come on, come to a free guest event tonight. I said, look, I've been to every guest event there is. Forget it. He said, no, really, Tony. He said, I really want you to do this. It's really unique. He said, why not? I said, because I'm busy. He said, oh, really? What are you doing tonight? Watching Dynasty. Now, that really hurt. Because that's exactly what I was going to do. So I went down the seminar. I got exposed to this initial technology on how to condition my mind, how to change literally the way my mind processed what I saw, heard, and felt in the world, change my experience, how I feel, and how I behaved. And I was jaded about it, but that night I watched them produce results with people like I'd never seen before. Take a phobia away from somebody in less than an hour. And somebody who'd been in therapy for 5 years at the time. And I got excited and I said, I really want to master this. I want to do whatever it takes to take this information and take it to the general population, because everybody in the room was psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage and family counselors. And I said, boy, they're making this so complex. Plus, I had this interesting benefit. I wasn't educated because I hadn't been told what I couldn't do. And when these instructors said, hey, you can go out and do this in 10 minutes, I believed them, and I'd go out and do it. I got on national television, national radio, starting in Canada. And I launched my career by challenging psychiatrists and psychologists. That wasn't my intent. What I did is I got up and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what it is you want in your life, there's one thing that stops you. Fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of rejection, fear of pain, fear of the unknown, fear of what people say. How many of you have any of these fears? I'm curious. Well, good, we have humans in the room. Excellent. I said, I don't care what your fear is. See me, I'll handle it. 1 hour. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you've been in therapy for years. I don't care if you've got uncontrollable phobia. See me, I am the one-stop therapist. Well, when you make those kind of claims on the radio, you can imagine what happens, right? People go out and go, can you do this, can you do this, can you do this? I'm going, yes, 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 yes. Then the psychiatrist calls me in. Now, up until this point, I thought all psychiatrists were totally open, flexible human beings. And 99.9% of them are, but a few aren't, just like any profession. And I got one that wasn't very open. And he started attacking me viciously on the radio. Started saying, who do you think you are, young man? You are a charlatan, you are a liar. Sir, like people like you should not be allowed on the radio. Now, what do you do when somebody attacks you personally? What do you do? I don't know. But when you don't know what to do, always do this. Ask the person a question. Because when you ask somebody a question, in order to answer it, they have to focus on your question, which changes what they're thinking about. Plus, it gives you time to think. Right? Right? So I said to this man, I said, sir, let me ask you a question. Which, by the way, is a good thing to say while you're thinking of the question you're going to ask. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, Are you a scientist? He said, of course, I'm a physician. I said, great, because I know a scientist would never assume anything. He said, what are you saying? I said, sir, I hear you making a hypothesis. Your hypothesis is I'm a charlatan and a liar. I said, but isn't it true that after stating a hypothesis, if you're truly a scientist, you have to be willing to test that hypothesis? He said, well, yeah. I said, great. I suggest you come and prove I'm a charlatan. I suggest the best way to do it is I'm doing a free guest event for the general population tomorrow night, general public. Holiday Inn, free, no charge. I suggest you come, prove I'm a charlatan, and I suggest the best way to do that is to bring one of your patients. I said, bring somebody you've never been able to cure. I said, I'm sure you have plenty of those. So we all have patients that aren't ready to change yet. I said, that's funny, I haven't found any. Of course, I'd only done 3 therapies, but hey. I knew what was possible, right? So sure enough, right, he starts telling me, he said, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. Who do you think you are to order me around? I said, I'm not ordering you around, sir. I'm giving you an opportunity to test your hypothesis. He said, well, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. I said, sir, if you're not willing to test it, please retract your statement. I said, let's be scientific. He said, well, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. Don't play games with me. Don't play verbal games with me. I said, sir, I said, all I'm trying to do is be fair. I don't mind you being skeptical, but give me a chance. Why don't you just take a look? So well, I'm not going to do that. I said, sir, then would you at least tell me your name? I'm curious. He said, no. I said, sir, and I'm thinking, if I want to change this man's behavior, I gave you the key to changing anybody's behavior in the first 10 minutes of my speaking. I said, everything we do to avoid what? Pain, or to get what? I thought, well, there's not much pleasure I can give him. Maybe I can give him some pain. So I said to him, I said, sir, I'm sure you must realize this is a very popular radio show. I'm sure you must realize a lot of your patients probably listen to this show and recognize your voice now and now know your level of personal integrity. He goes, oh, you're really trying to put me in a corner, aren't you? I said, I'm trying to. I said, listen, I'm not trying to be harsh. If I sound harsh, it's probably because I feel hurt, because you're attacking me, you don't even know who I am. I said, I'm just asking for a fair shake. I have no problem with you doing it, but, put yourself on the line. I'm putting myself on the line. He goes, well, I can't make my patients do this. I said, come on, don't you have a patient be willing to try something new? He said, well, I do have this one woman, she'd be willing to try almost anything. I thought, obviously, she works with you, but I didn't say that out loud. Bottom line is, I said, what's her problem? She said she has a snake phobia. I said, well, how does it manifest? He said, well, what she does is she goes to sleep at night. She has this dream of a snake coming and biting her on the face. And it's so real that what it does is shoots adrenaline through her body and she wakes up. I said, well, how would you do that? How would you turn that around? Or better yet, how long have you been working with it? He said, oh, about 7 years. I said, wow, that's pretty exciting. I said, why don't you bring her down? That should take me, 10 or 15 minutes. Guy goes crazy, right? Bottom line is the guy hangs up on the phone. The radio guy says, well, see you tomorrow night at the Holiday Inn. So we arrive at the Holiday Inn. We're expecting about 200, 250 people. Guess how many people show up? Over 500 to see the shootout at OK Corral. I get there. How many of you have ever been in a situation where when you talk to somebody on the phone, let's say calling in, how many of you do what I do? When you hear somebody's voice on the phone for the first time, instantly you make a picture of what they look like. How many have ever done this? Right, so what kind of picture would you attach to a voice like this? Okay, I'll be there. How big a person would you imagine, right? I picture this huge person. I don't know his name. I'm standing out front looking for a huge man with a scared woman on his arm. Nobody fits this criteria, right? So finally, it's time to start. I look at my watch. I get up here. I introduce myself as good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Robbins. As soon as I say my name, this side door over here bursts open. And this guy about this tall walks in. And this woman walks in with him. He doesn't wait for the break. I'm talking. He walks right in here, stands right in front of me. So I turn to the audience and say, it looks like I have a visitor. I said, would you excuse me a minute? I went down to shake the guy's hand. He wouldn't shake my hand. He just goes, here's the woman. Okay. So I help the lady up on stage. I get her a little chair. Can I borrow that chair there? Yes, I get her this little chair, and set her down and say, why don't you just relax right here, which is, by the way, not easy to do when you got 500 people staring at you, right? So I said, let me start fresh. My name is Tony Robbins. I'm here today to share with you a technology on how to change the way you feel and the way you think that is so powerful and so quick. It's unlike anything you've ever done. It'll really show you how to condition your mind to make changes that maybe you thought took years, we can do in minutes. And that's a big claim. So rather than me, for example, just tell you about it, let me do a quick demonstration. This is the woman in question. I said, this woman has had a phobia she's been treated for now for almost 7 years by that psychiatrist right there. I'm going to attempt to wipe it out in about 10 to 15 minutes. I have no guarantee it'll work, but 90% chance we can do it within an hour for sure. So if we're willing to go for it, we can pull it off. So I turned to this woman, I said, ma'am, I understand you have certain kinds of feelings about certain kinds of animals. For example, how do you feel about snakes? And she goes, now, if you've ever seen a phobic, you know I'm not exaggerating. We're talking about physically out of control, right? Stimulus response, right? And people in the front row going, oh my God. I hear this other guy in the front row going, I bet he didn't know she was that bad. And in my head, I'm going, I didn't know she was that bad. Right? My heart's beating out of me. I'm shaking this woman, trying to get her to calm down. My heart's beating out of me. I mean, this is my first public demonstration, right? I finally get her to calm down, right? And then what I do is I proceed over the next 10 or 15 minutes to do what we're going to teach you to do over the next 9 months, which is absolutely totally to condition your mind and body to respond exactly as you want to anything. So that if right now you're addicted to chocolate and you don't want to be, you can change that. Some people go, no, don't change that, please. No, right? So that if you want to change anything in your life, you can change any behavior you want by changing the conditioning of what it means. And that's what I did with this woman. And after I'm done, I go to test it. How do I test it? I said, ma'am, how do you feel about snakes? She doesn't move. She just looks at me and says, you don't have to yell. People are like, wow. Psychiatrist in the back's going. So I like to have fun, as you may have picked up, and I'm kind of outrageous at times. So I said, ma'am, why don't you just relax for a second? You're doing pretty well. Let's just test you out here. I'll be right back. And I walk back in here, and I reach under here and get a little knapsack. And I reach down the knapsack. I walk in behind her, and I go, ma'am, how do you feel about, whoo! I stick the snake in front of her. And she did jump back. So would you. But after about 2, maybe 20, 30 seconds, somewhere in that place, sure enough, she relaxes. I got the snake wiggling around in front of her. Bear in mind, before she even thought of a snake, physically out of control, shaking like crazy, drooling, the whole 9 yards. No exaggeration. We're talking a full phobic response. So now she's there, and she's calm, but not quite calm. I said, listen, think what it would be like to hold it. She goes, starts to get her afraid again. I said, listen, you couldn't even think of a snake before. Now there's one in front of you, and you're calm. Think it would be like to hold it. She's like, I don't know. The audience starts going, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. She goes, all right. I start to hand her this thing. She takes it and she squeezes. I said, don't kill it. All right? And that day started a new career for me because it not only taught everybody else what was possible, it taught me. I didn't know. And you won't know what you're capable of until you put yourself on the line. I didn't know if I could really do that. But you know what? I had to. And I used that strategy throughout my career to put myself on the line and do things. I worked in the United States Army, took on programs, for example, and cut them by 2/3. Took the world's best pistol shooters in the entire U.S. Army and got them to do better in a short period of time. 4 days, better than they had ever. So I've done those things over and over and over again. And by the way, that day, some people thought it was a setup, right? So they attacked me and said, can you do this, can you do this? And I went, yes, 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 yes. I don't know if I could do it. But if there's one thing that we can instill in each other as a value to operate from our belief, is that we can't fail. We cannot fail. Because whatever we do, if the minute we do it, we catch what we're doing, if it doesn't work, we just need to do something else. If that doesn't work, we need to do something else. When we call it failure, we become immobilized. Now all of a sudden we can't help the patient, we can't help ourselves, we can't help our business. See, for me to fail, the game would have to be over. And the game's a long game. So I'm not worried about it. If something doesn't work, I just immediately say, okay, what do I need to do to make it work? The more time you store failure in your body, the less time you have to help somebody or help yourself. And so I just keep changing the approach. And so I took on some things. I took on a man who'd been stuttering for over 30 years. End of an hour, no more stuttering. I took on a woman who hadn't had an orgasm in 10 years. Huh. Boom! Orgasm right there. No, I did not touch her. I simply changed what she conditioned to that idea. You go, are you going to teach us that here? Whoa. Now I have your interest, don't I? So I was talking about the 5 lessons of life. I guess I should give you the 5th one, which is you must master time. You must master time. And mastering time doesn't mean you're on time. Mastering time means you enjoy, you maximize what you get out of every minute. See, if you're mastering time, that means you're so immersed that time wouldn't matter to you. Now, I'm not saying you don't need to be on time. I'm just saying some people are so conscious of time that what happens is everything moves very slowly for them. See, have you ever been in a situation where you're loving what you're doing so much you completely lost track of time? How many have been in that experience? Yeah. What if work could become like that for you? And for some of you, hopefully it already is. But what if it could really be like that, where you loved it so much that, boy, at the end of the day, it's like the day just screamed by. And you felt fulfilled and you felt excited. And time was not your enemy. Time was your friend. We're going to talk about how to make that happen. And it's not an easy thing. It's a discipline in our heads. But there are ways to expand beyond the limits we used to have in those particular areas. So we want to work on all 5 of these lessons. Before we do anything else, you've been sitting a little bit. So let me have you, would you like to learn something about yourself? Yes, no? Great, let's do this real quick little exercise. Stand up if you would. All you have to stretch for a second. Up there, up, up, up. Over to one side, nice deep moan, nice moan. Other side, deep moan. Come on back, high pitch moan. Very deep moan. Great, now here's what we're gonna do. It's gonna test your mental focus. Here's what we're gonna do. What I want you to do when I say now is you're gonna take your hands out like this. When I say now, you're just gonna bring them together and have your hands come together in a lacing format, okay? Or whatever way you want, but you're gonna do it when I say now, okay? I didn't say now. Following directions, doctors. Ready? Now. Okay, let's do it again. Ready? Now. Great. Now that your hands are here, I want you to know something. Keep your hands the way they are. Extensive scientific research has shown that when people bring their hands together like this, usually one thumb is on top of the other one. Not always, as you'll see in a few exceptions, but usually. Now here's what research shows. If your left thumb is over the top of your right thumb, then you are extremely sexy. Don't go changing thumbs. If your right thumb is over the top of your left thumb, then you're extremely intelligent. If when you did this, your thumbs came together and did not cross, it means you think you're sexy. Okay, go ahead and have a seat. There we go. Yes, indeed. Very nice. One of those little-known facts that I thought I would share with you to increase the quality of your life. So, what happened, you might say, well, what happened to your life, Robbins? In 1 year, I went from the place I told you, my little 400-square-foot bachelor apartment, and when I tell you about that, that hopefully is a metaphor to give you an idea where I was emotionally. What do you think my confidence level was? I was through the floor. I had no self-esteem. I was in a situation where I was in a relationship with somebody that I cared about, but I really wasn't attracted to, didn't love, but I kind of like settled for less than what I really wanted in a relationship. I was in a position where I had given up a lot of what I valued most, and I just didn't have any sense of direction or control over my life. And I was obviously totally financially broke on top of that, which wasn't terribly exciting. But I turned it around in 1 year, literally. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days, teaching some of the simple things that you'll learn over the weeks that we spend together. I want to share with you some of those fundamentals about how to master your body without going on a diet, without being crazed or insane or exercising my guts out, by making some very simple changes, by understanding how to master my physical body. I changed myself emotionally completely. Got myself to a level where I felt that level of commitment and that sense of meaning that I was always looking for in my life. Felt connected spiritually, and we're not going to tell you what to believe there. We don't have the audacity to do that, but we would tell you to do what you believe. And I did what was really important in that area. It changed me completely. Found myself in a position where I turned myself around financially, radically. 1 year, I went from totally broke in my 400-square-foot bachelor apartment to $1 million in personal income in 1 year. It was a pretty radical shift. I appreciate the clapping, but you know, the truth is the emotional shifts I made were much more powerful than the money. In fact, that's one of the reasons I got the money. The bottom line is, it was all those things, yes, I did learn what to do, I did learn the strategies, but what changed my whole life is I got a big enough why. And if you want to write one thing down, remember, I'd write this down. 80% of success in life is knowing why to. 20% is how to. 80% of success in life is knowing why to do something. 20% is learning how to do it. You can figure out how to do almost anything if you got a big enough why. The bigger the why, the easier the how. The other thing I write down in my notes is this: reasons come first, answers come second. When you get enough reasons, you can find a way to do anything. But the problem is most people don't have enough reasons. Reasons come first, answers come second. See, what are human beings capable of? What can a human being do? Almost anything. Humans can do one of the most incredible things. They can go beyond most people's idea of what's possible. We can all break through that. What human beings can do is absolutely incredible. What they will do is usually rather disappointing. And the difference is not the how-to in most cases, it is the why-to. It is that reason. What changed my entire life in 1 year was one simple thing. I found something inside of me. I found a way that every moment of my life, everything I was doing had a sense of meaning. I found a way to make sure that whether it was just walking down the sidewalk and seeing somebody, or whether it was what I was doing in my business, where all of me was being poured into everything I did. See, what if you operated from the belief that everything I do moment to moment is a total expression of who I am? See, if you operate from that level, what would that do to your relationships? What would that do to the connection that you have with your patients? What would that do to your effectiveness in being able to help people? What would that do to the living environment you're in? What would that do to your personal relationship? What would it do to your ability to impact your kids? If all you did was every moment you managed to find that kind of meaning. And that only happens when you develop a purpose, a vision, and we all have it inside of ourselves. And today is toward the process of discovering that, getting more connected to that. Because see, when we know what we're doing things for, we can do anything. But most of us, we got sold a bill of goods a long time ago. We got sold all these things that we should do and then we would be happy. I mean, think about it. What did you get taught? I don't know about you, but I remember growing up, it's like when you turn 16, then you'll be happy. Because you'll get a car, you'll have some independence. Right? And I turned 16 and I had to pay for the gas. Right? You know? I had to get a job to pay for the gas because I had to buy the car, and the car was really loud, it was always breaking down. Didn't make me happy. Then it was when you move out. When you get out of high school, that's the key. That didn't work. But when you move out, when you don't have your parents on your back, then you'll be in great shape. Did that work? No. Right? You started to notice, boy, your parents were kind of intelligent about certain things. It's amazing how they get smarter as you get older. Right? Right? And sure, then enough, well, once you get through college, once you're through college, it'll be great. Once you get that first job, once you find your career, once you move up, once you get promoted, once you find that man or woman of your dreams, once you get married, once you have kids, yeah, that one's really going to do it, right? Right? Once your kids make it through the terrible twos, once they make it through college, once you retire. Doctors, what was the bill of goods you got? Hey, if you make it, if you qualify, you get into pre-med, you make it through there, you're sailing. You'll make it. Yeah, they know the odds, but you'll do it. Oh, no. Once you get your license, then you got it made. Just make it through, get that license, then it's handled. Then it's, well, once you open your practice and really get underway, and of course, you went out and talked to some of the doctors in the area, and they told you there's no market for any more doctors in the area. Right? And so you go and you open things up, right? And then it's, well, once you get enough patients, and all of a sudden you got too many patients, maybe. Or once you get a better staff. But maybe it's not a better staff, maybe it's a better you. Right? Well, once you get one of those kios, that'll do it. Once you retire. How many got sold some of these bills of goods that I'm talking about here? Come on, be honest. Let me see your show of hands. We're all taught someday, something, someone, and then we'll be happy. Then it'll work out. I'd say it's a bill of goods and isn't true. What we got to do is we got to get clear about what is it we really want. So I thought what we might do along that line, before we do anything else, is find out why you're here. So what I'd like to do real quick, let's do a quick, simple exercise, just to brainstorm some things out of your head. Get them out of your brain. Pull out a piece of paper if you would, and jot down in your piece of paper the following. I want you to write down the answer to this question. Why are you here this weekend? Let's make it simple. Why are you here this weekend? We won't talk about your whole life yet, just this weekend. And some of you say, I don't know. I got dragged here. Okay, then the other question is, if you don't know why you're here, the other question is, what could come out of being here this weekend? What's possible? What could come out of your being here this weekend? If you played full out, you really went for it, what might come? What might be the result of your playing full out this weekend? And why are you here? What do you expect? What could you create? Write yourself a couple sentences about that and really think about it. Why are you here? What you discovered by doing this so far. We haven't told you anything about it as of yet, but what do you notice? Raise your hand and tell me what you noticed by doing this. Yes, ma'am. You all have the same emotions, and you work together. There's a clue there. Somebody else, what did you discover by doing this? Yes, ma'am. That all these emotions kind of tie together. How many of you notice if you look at your emotions, you can see almost an order that you go through, like a recipe, like you hit this emotion and that triggers this one and moves the other one. How many got something like that going? Kind of like a strategy for like being upset. Right? All right. Somebody else, what did you discover? Yes, ma'am. Shh.
That the emotions were caused from an external source, not internal.
That the emotions seem to be caused by an external source. Because are they really caused by an external source? Are the emotions themselves caused by an external source, yes or no? No. How many of you have ever fallen in love? Let me see your hands. Somebody fall in love. Oh, come on, some of you are not raising your hand. Sure you have, right? I mean, like, really fall in love. Where you met somebody, right, and you just, like, fell head over heels. You, like, didn't think intelligently anymore, you know? And you thought about them constantly, and all of a sudden you started singing even though you can't. You know, and you thought about them, and you wake up in the middle of the night, and you told everybody about them, and you thought everything they did was cute. They burped, and you went, oh, that's not a cute burp. Right? And then what happens? You wake up in the middle of the night thinking of them, and you call them up, and you say, were you thinking of me? And they said yes, and you went, oh, gosh. Come on, how many remember a time like that? Come on. Did it last forever? Oh, what happened? That person changed, didn't they? Sure enough, you got around them, and you discovered that, yes, they have other habits you don't like either. Yeah, they do all these weird things. Was it really that they changed? No. See, when you felt all those great feelings, by the way, did that person actually create those feelings? How do you fall in love? Listen, you can fall in love with anyone, and most of us have proven this. Isn't it true? How do you fall in love with somebody? What do you do? If you want to fall in love with somebody, what do? You think about all the things. You ask yourself a simple question. What could I possibly love about this person? What else is great about this person? You ask those kinds of questions unconsciously, don't you? And you don't make a list. You don't go, I like this, I hate this. Like that, that's pretty crappy, but, well, between the two, I guess I'm attracted. No, what do? You just look at everything that could possibly be great about this person, and you fall head over heels. Now, when you fall out of love, and by the way, you don't just think about these things, you associate. Key word. You associate. That means you don't just think about it out there like you step into the experience and feel it, don't you? Now, if you fall out of love, how many of you have ever fallen out of love? Oh yes, one of those other wonderful memories. How'd you pull that off? Well, when you fall in love, you associate to everything you could possibly like about this person, and what do? You disassociate from things that could upset you or frustrate you or whatever. And when you fall out of love, what do? You associate to everything that could possibly upset you, and what do on the other side? Dissociate from all the good feelings you have. See, all the emotions that we have inside, we create. Now, I will guarantee you that if somebody comes and punches me, I probably will react, right? But the reality is still we choose our emotions, although most of us don't do it consciously anymore. That's the challenge. In fact, what you'll find is that we have a small number of habitual emotions that we just recycle about almost anything. It's like something in the world happens. Life happens. Somebody says something, somebody does something. And as that happens, this experience of life, it gets funneled through a set of beliefs and values that we have. And it gets funneled down here, and we have to express, what is all this stuff we're seeing, hearing, and feeling, these sensations? What does it all mean? And we usually do that with a thing called words. And the challenge is that many of us have a limited number of words to describe the way we feel. We have unlimited numbers that are available, but we've got only a limited number we use habitually. So we start to feel uncomfortable. Each time we feel uncomfortable, it may actually be different feelings, but we call that upset. One time it might be upset, one time it might be concerned, one time it might be curious. But we only have a limited number of words we use, and as soon as the experience gets labeled as the word, as soon as you label something, it becomes that. It becomes a signal in your brain that says, create that feeling, and you generate it. I discovered something not long ago that changed my whole life. I call it transformational vocabulary. It's a title for it. You might want to put this in your notes. It's a way to change the way you feel. In fact, before I tell it to you, let me take a little poll, though. I want to see something. How many of you, in a period of a week, let me check your notes here, okay? In a period of a week, you experience more negative emotions than positive emotions, at least when you wrote them down just now. I'll be curious. Raise your hand. More negative than positive. Raise your hand nice and high. Be honest. Let me see a show of hands. So you can see it's the majority of the room. Now let's do this. How many of you experience more than, let's say, 35 emotions on an average weekly basis? More than 35. Let me see a show of hands. Raise your hand nice and high. 1, 2. Do you guys know each other? No? Okay, 2, 3. In a room of 400 people, did you raise your hand, man? 3 people in 400 who experience more than 35 emotions in a week. How many experience more than 25 emotions in a week? 1, 2, 3. How many experience more than 20 emotions in a week? 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 400. How many experience 15 emotions or more in a week? How many experience a dozen emotions or less in a week? Raise your hand. Look around, keep your hands nice and high. Look around this room. How many emotions could you experience? How many different emotions are you capable of within yourself? Positive, negative. How many? Come on. Hundreds. Hundreds that we're aware of consciously, not to mention ones we don't really have a label for. And yet we experience about a dozen. And by the way, out of that dozen, how many had at least 6 that were negative? Let me see your hands on that one. Interesting. How many had more than 6 that were negative? Raise your hand nice and high. So what you're really experiencing are about 6 good feelings in an average week. That's a little scary, considering the hundreds you could possibly have. Now, why would that be? Why would it be that you experience such a limited range of emotions? And the answer is patterns. You have certain habitual pattern ways of responding to things, pattern ways of perceiving things, ways of taking your experience saying, oh, I know what that is. And there are 2 giant patterns that are controlling all of your emotions and feelings. And they aren't what's happening around you. It is the pattern that does it. Okay? The way you perceive things. For example, I have a friend named W. Mitchell. W. Mitchell's an incredible guy. He was in a nice motorcycle accident. The bottom line is, he's on this motorcycle driving along, and an interesting thing happened. He got fixed on something on the side of the road. You ever do that? And you're not noticing you're driving? When he looked up, Mack trucks right in front of him. Split second, he tries to save his life by slamming himself on the ground and sliding underneath the truck. Good strategy, except something happened. The gas tank, the top of it pulled off, the gas spilled out, and from the intention and from all the friction, ignited, exploded. Burned off 2/3 of his body, including his entire face, melted, his fingers melted all the way down to his knuckles. Wakes up in searing pain, fearing to even breathe. He came through that experience. Most people at this point say, I'm out of here. But he didn't. Somehow he managed to take all that experience and create a meaning out of it that empowered him. His meaning was, if I'm still alive, then obviously I'm here to do something. A lot of people would ask a different question. He said, what am I here to do? What am I here to contribute? Those are the kinds of questions he asked. Whereas, what do you think most people ask when something like this would happen to them? Why me? See, why me is what I call an endless loop question. It'll just make you're never going to know for sure. You just go over and over and over. Why me? Because I did something wrong when I was a kid. Because it was another lifetime. I'm paying my price. Whatever it is, right? But see, none of that empowers you, right? He empowered himself. Empowered himself so much that he came back from this skin graft after skin graft after skin graft and moved to Vermont and started a new business and a whole new life. Learned to fly an airplane with these limited things, right? Learned how to do that stuff. Moving around, flying around, enjoying. Interesting thing, built this business, and by the way, his business was his way of like getting over his fear of the fire. He built a company, became the #1 wood-burning stove company in the United States. Became a millionaire, met a really neat lady, and in spite of how grotesque he looked visually, he connected and made his life work. Then one day he's in Colorado flying his airplane, and he fails to go through his checklist. Yes, something you never want to do flying, trust me. And as a result, he takes off, and there's some frost on the wing. He's up with 3 other people and himself. He gets up about 250 feet above the ground, and all of a sudden loses lift and explodes straight down to the ground, crashes. 3 people walked away from it. W. Mitchell didn't. He's paralyzed from the waist down for life. Now, at this point, now he said, why me, right? Now he said it's over. No, I asked him, I'm always analyzing the unconscious questions we ask, because the questions we ask control the focus of our mind, and therefore how we feel, how we think, and what we do. The questions we ask ourselves on a consistent basis shape our emotions and our destiny. So I said, let me ask you a question. When you were there, remember, go back to that time. I got him back there. And you were there for a little while. What did you start noticing? What did you ask yourself? He said, well, I looked up and I saw this nurse, and she was absolutely beautiful. And he said, I asked myself, I wonder what it would take to get a date with her. I said, no way. He said, yeah, I'm dead serious. Now, he kept talking to these other guys about, I wonder what it would take to get a date with her. I mean, it was his, focus. And these other guys are like, this guy's insane. His body's burned completely off. He's paralyzed from the waist down for life. There's a clue. How is he going to attract this woman? Right? A year later, he had a relationship with her, and he's been in a relationship with her now ever since. They're getting married. All because he asked a better quality of question. See, it's not what happens in your life that determines the quality of your life. What happens doesn't matter. What happens is pretty bad for all of us at times, right? We all have tough times. We all have our story. I tell you my story if I heard your story. We can all argue about who's got a worse story. Oh, yeah, let me tell you about it. Oh, I didn't tell you how bad it really was. Let me tell you how bad it was in this area. But that's not going to change anything. What will change everything is what we do about what happens. It's not what happens that determines our life. It's what we do about the happenings. See, what I did about the happening in my business a few years ago changed my life for the positive. See, the emotions I created in me. So what is it that keeps us from having what we want? Patterns. 2 types of patterns. Put these in your notes. Because if we're really talking about emotions, we're also, I might use another word for it, we call them states, emotional states. And here's what I would suggest to you. If you and I want to change how we behave in our life, in other words, if you want to get new results, how many would agree you've got to take new actions, you've got to produce new behaviors? Raise your hand if you agree with that. So if we want to change the way people behave, we should look at the way we behave. What makes us do what we do moment to moment? Is it always based on intelligence, yes or no? Yes or no? Of course not. A lot of very smart people don't do very smart things. How many of you have ever done something where after you did it, you thought to yourself, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. That was so stupid. How many of you have ever done something like this? Come on. How many have done something where after you did it, you went, yeah, that was me. Were you impressed even yourself? You don't know how you did it, but you impressed yourself. Let me see a show of hands. Now, you're the same person, right? You have the same ability or skill. How come in one situation you produce brilliant results and the other one brutal results? What's the difference? The difference is not your ability. It's not your talent. It is not your skill. That's the same. What's changed is only one thing. What we do moment to moment is controlled by the state that our mind and body is in. What we do, and therefore the results of our life, are determined by the state that our mind and body is in at any moment in time. And if we want to change our life, we've got to change our behaviors. If we want to change our behaviors, we've got to change the consistent emotional states we live in. Now, there are two things that directly control our states. We learn to master these, we master our emotional states, and therefore our life. You can do this, you can do anything. And you can do this so easily. The first thing that determines, and by the way, let me show you what I'm talking about up here. I'm saying that your behavior, what you do, is the result of the state that you are in. So I'm saying state creates behavior. For example, if you're in a frustrated state, will you behave differently than if you're feeling really happy? Yes or no? What would you say? Of course. Could you behave the same way in a frustrated state as when you're happy? Yes, you could, but you won't. Because your emotional state triggers our behavior. If you're feeling different, if you're feeling loving, you're going to behave differently towards someone than if you're feeling angry, obviously. Same person, but your state will determine behavior. Two things, though, determine your state. The most important thing that starts the control of state is the way you use your physical body, or what we call physiology. Not a new word for this room. Physiology creates emotional states. In other words, the way you use your physical body determines the way you feel. Your posture, your gestures, your breathing pattern, your facial expressions, all of these things come together to create our own emotions. If you change the way you use your physical body in any way, whether it be the way you consume things, the amount of sleep you have, because that's going to affect the nerve energy you have, but more importantly, how many of you have ever been really tired, but then something happened and you were awake all night? How many of you have had that experience? You're about to have another one this weekend. No. Some of you have heard these stories, right? The truth of the matter is, what happens when we change our bodies, it changes how we feel. In fact, write this in your notes, something for you to remember. Emotion is created by motion. Emotion is created by motion. If you and I want to change anything in the world that we're feeling, the first way to do it is change the way we move. And little changes can make a big difference. Changes in your facial expressions, changes in the way you're sitting, changes in the way you're moving. In fact, try this. Take your hands out like this right now and do something with me here, okay? Take your hands and just do what I do with the same expression on your face. Ready? Here's where we go. This is how most people live their life. Notice how it feels. Now try this. Bring your hands together and become like a little kid. Be outrageous, be fun, be weird. All those want to do this, so say I. Oh, come on. All those want to do this, so say I. Great. So now when we do this, what I want you to do is take your hands together. When I say now, when you take your hands, I want you to extend them out as fast as you can, snap them out. When you do it, put a big grin on your face and make a weird noise. Only those who are truly secure can do this. Ready, set, go. Oh, come on, even more. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. Come on, slap your neighbor's face. Go. Now go back to the old way. Show me how you want to live your life. Which one? Show me now. Come on. The way you move determines the way you feel. How many feel a little different when you're doing that? Let me see you show of hands. I can't just imagine saying, hi! Oh, jeez. Here's my point. Movement creates it all. A slight change in movement will instantly change the way you think and the way you feel. And the way you feel will determine your performance. See, if you change the way you feel, you change your performance. You'll change what you're capable of doing in that moment just by changing your physiology. The way you breathe, the way you move, the way you gesture, the way you use your facial expression. So how can we use this more effectively? Well, think about this. How do most people try and change the way they feel when they don't feel good in our country? What do most people do? They eat, right? When the going gets tough, the tough go eating. Okay? I relate to this. This is what I used to always do. I mean, this is my whole thing. That's how I gained all that weight. You know, I didn't like the way I felt, so I ate. Then I looked in the mirror, didn't like that, so I ate some more because it didn't make me feel good to look at myself. I was really on a roll. How many of you have ever done this? I'm just curious. Okay? What's another thing that people do? Physically. Let's start with just physically. When people don't like the way they feel, what do they do physically to try and change the way they feel? take drugs. Cocaine, #1 retail selling product in North America in dollars. How come cocaine is this big seller? How come it's breaking records for everything? Is it because they got such great salespeople? Cocaine does the 2 things all human beings want. Every human nervous system needs. It instantly eliminates what? And instantly creates tons of what? And it's available almost anywhere, even Iowa, and it's dirt cheap. But you know what? I've never taken drugs in my life, not because I'm so bright, because I was well conditioned. See, because I associate lots of what, would you guess, to drugs if I don't do it? Massive pain. I never had any, but I can remember when I was about 12, 13 years old, in not junior high school, but in grade school, I guess, where this policeman came in and showed these films. Have you ever been to one of those highway patrol things when you get a ticket and you get to watch these intense films, you know? Well, they showed films. Back in those days, it wasn't cocaine, it was LSD and what was the other one? Heroin. And they showed these drugs and people go, man, this is really great, whoa, right? And then they showed these people jumping out of buildings and they showed their bodies. In my little 11, 12, 13-year-old mind, I can still see that imagery so intense. And I linked up to myself, drugs equal death. And if you link pain to something, are you going to move towards it or are you going to try and avoid it? Which one? We all avoid what we associate pain to and we move towards what we associate pleasure to. Plus, the people doing drugs, they had long hair and they're taking this thing and they're jamming it right there into their veins and they looked ugly. And I thought, dead's bad, but ugly's really bad. Being dead and ugly, drugs are not for me. No way. So I never did those things. But a lot of people take drugs because they think, hey, drugs are a way to instantly change the way I feel. Problem is when the drug wears off, they're still back in the same state. All right? What else? What else do people in America do when they don't like the way they feel and they want to change the way they feel through their body usually? What do? Drink alcohol. And when you're drunk, does that change your state? Do you behave differently when you're drunk? Man, over here goes, yeah, I sure do. What else? Exercise is a very positive way to do it. When you exercise, change the way you feel, doesn't it? Somebody else, what else? Make love. Yes, that's a very positive one. What's that? Buy new clothing. Go shopping. Okay. People, yeah. Think about this for a second. Why does going shopping seem to change your state? Well, because it accomplishes 2 things. #1, when you were a kid, did you ever feel kind of depressed and have somebody say to you, well, just go do something? How many heard that when you were a kid? You know what? Because when you go do something, you get up and you change the way you're moving and what you're doing. You also accomplish the second thing that changes your state when you go shopping. And the second thing that changes your state is a change in your focus. Changing your internal focus. Changing what you're paying attention to, what you're focusing on in your mind, what you're representing in your mind, what you're picturing, what you're talking to yourself about, whatever you look at in your mind, whatever you talk to yourself about, whatever you focus on. That affects how you feel also, doesn't it? If you change your focus, you change how you feel. For example, if you really wanted to get depressed in this room, how many of you could pull it off right now? Let me see your hands. Yes, how come? Because you've practiced. Now, by the way, is there a physiology to depression? Tell me if I said behind door #1 here, no, behind curtain #1 here is a depressed person. For a $100,000 check to your favorite charity, please describe this person's physiology. Tell me what they're like. Come on, nice and loud. What are they like? Slumped. What do you mean by slumped? They're kind of tilted down. By the way, how would you like to have a name like, hey, Slumpy? Right? So they're tilted down. What else? Where's their head? Where are their eyes? Where's their breathing? Full or shallow? Facial muscles up and tight or slack? How come you all agree on this? Because you, again, have practiced this very well, right? You know exactly what to do to get depressed. What do you think happens if you take somebody who's depressed and you just change the way they're standing and the way they're breathing? I'll tell you what, let's do something really stupid. Let's try it. Stand up for a second. Let's do something very dumb. Put your notebook down. Standing nice and tall. Here's what I'd like you to do. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale slowly. Look at the ceiling. And as you're standing tall, look at the ceiling, breathing fully, what I want you to do is put a big, stupid, silly grin on your face. Go ahead, nobody will notice they're grinning at the ceiling too. Okay, big grin on your face, come on, keep doing it. Now here's your challenge. While you continue to smile, looking at the ceiling, breathing fully, continue to smile, I want you to get totally depressed without changing any aspect of your body or face. Don't change any part of your physiology and get depressed. Raise your hand when you're depressed. No, sir, keep smiling, sir. Keep looking up, ma'am, keep breathing, sir. Come on, smile, ma'am. You're not smiling. I mean, why you haven't smiled all day? I'm watching you, ma'am. Yes, you. You're the one. Look at the ceiling and smile. Raise your hand when you're depressed. Come on, get depressed without changing your physiology. Can't do it, can you? Okay, well then keep the same smile, same dumb smile. Look at your buddy there, shake their hand. Look how weird they look. There you go. And have a seat. Now I got a question for you. How come when you're standing like this, you don't feel depressed? How come? Why? Because your body determines how you feel. When you think a thought, you then have to send it through your nervous system. If you change the way you're using your nervous system, it changes the way you think. Literally. So you want to change the way you think? Change the way you move. See, if you've never moved, whoa, like this, that's not the way you want to move either. If you've never made certain kinds of moves, you've never felt the emotions that are linked to that. If, for example, when you talk, you make gestures like, I have this important thing to say to you. It's powerful. You're not going to intensify your emotions as much as if you say, listen, I want to talk to you about this. Or if you move your body like this as you do it. See, those different changes in the way you move change the way you think. So you have 80 different muscles in your face, right? A slight change in the facial muscle instantly changes your state. See, you've all heard William James's phrase, right? He said, I don't sing because I'm happy because I sing. I've been teaching this for years, that if you change your physiology, you instantly change your state. And we don't have to use drugs. Because how do we, by the way, how do we treat people who are manic depressives, for example? How do we treat them? Give them drugs. Yeah, that's right, give them drugs. And by the way, does it work? Giving people drugs changes their biochemistry, therefore their physiology, changes their state. Okay, it changes their behavior while they're on the drug. But it doesn't work long term. So we've been talking about how to do this, and what happened is at University of California at San Francisco about 4 years ago, they decided to use some of what we're talking about here and test it rigorously. They took manic depressives. You know what they did? They came along, took these people, made them stand and grin for 20 minutes at a time, 3 times a day. That was it. Just see what that would do. Number one, not one of them could stay depressed during that time. Number two, many of them developed a new habitual way of using the muscles of their face and literally changed their habitual emotions, the things you wrote down on your page. Have you ever looked at two people who they've been married a long time, and they look like each other? I've never seen this happen, right? Or better yet, somebody looks like their dog. It really is true about people. Couple's been married 25 years. Here's what we do, and we're gonna work on this in our next session, not this weekend, but our next session we're gonna show you how to absolutely bond with someone who doesn't even know you. How you can go out, let's say, into a restaurant, and from across the room instantly have them feel like they know you. And that is no big claim, it's a reality, and you're gonna go test it. During the seminar, we're gonna do exercises here, and then we're gonna send you out in the real world and do stuff. It's gonna be fun. Because I want to show you how to really bond with people. But the point is, one of the things that people do, there's a dynamic, when people are in rapport, we tend to mirror each other's facial expressions and gestures and movements. And when people have been, let's say, together for 10, 15, 20 years and they love each other, they tend to keep mirroring each other till literally they keep using their muscles in the same way that they develop patterns and literally structure their face slightly different. That's why we see that similarity in physiognomy very often. So it's an interesting dynamic. But what's really interesting is, I can look at various people, and by the way you use your face, the short time I'm here, I got a good idea of the range of emotions you have. Because you only use about a dozen anyway. God, doesn't that make you feel limited? I sure hope so. Because my goal is for you to expand that massively before the end of this program. Because there's all that more joy in being able to have all those other emotions. But you got to get out of the patterns of how you walk and how you talk and how you normally do things. Because see, you're very certain and you're very comfortable in certain modes. And we all know who we are. Or do we? See, what we want to do is to create new results. If you want to get new results in your life, by the way, how many want to have new results in your life? Great, then you got to do new things. Does that make sense? If you always do what if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. Right? If you want new results, you got to try something new. So we're going to do some new bizarre things, but you got to be willing to play full out. You got to be able to push yourself a little bit to make that work. How many are really willing to do that this weekend? Say aye. Aye. Great. And by the way, that means when I ask you questions too, do us both a favor. Yell back the answer. Why would you do that? Well, not so create a revival session here, but 2 reasons. If you just sit here and look at me and listen for the next 2.5 days, myself and my partners, you'll remember, depending upon whose research you believe, but most studies show you remember about 25% of what we say a week and a half to 2 weeks from now. That's it. If you listen and take notes, which if you don't have a notebook out, we highly suggest you take one and take notes, you can increase that to about 65% or more. If you listen, take notes, and actively participate, do the exercises, and specifically verbally participate, it can go up in the 90th percentile or above. Because if I ask you a question, I know you know the answer, but by having you yell back the answer, what it does, it makes your brain reprocess the information. It's like driving the grooves deeper, and therefore your memory is stronger. Plus, if you yell back with enthusiasm, it'll keep your energy high, and you'll have more fun. So how many will do that? Say aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. So if we want to make changes then in the way we behave in our results, we've got to change our state. We want to change our state. We want to change our physiology. Why don't we start with the way you sit? Sit right now the way you'd be sitting if you had 10 times more energy than you had when you got here. Come on. Even you, sir. Yes, even you. Sit the way you'd be sitting if you had 10 times more energy and you were excited. Sit the way you'd be sitting if you're excited. Breathe the way you'd be breathing if you felt really excited and energized and alive. And you may need to move in your chair to get things going. Right? Some of you need to make noise to make yourself feel good. Right? As you're doing this now, add to that excitement a sense of energy and passion. Sit the way you'd be sitting if you felt not that kind of passion, ma'am. Right? Energy and passion. Come on, energize, passion, and excited. And then amplify the feelings. Get it even more. What would you have to do in your body to create even more energy? Come on, push yourself. Even more, even more, even more. Come on. How many feel different as you do this? Raise your hand. Not you, ma'am, because you're sitting the same way you did when we started this thing. I'm watching you. I see you there. Yes, indeed. Don't you feel damn good. Be careful. Okay, that's good. Very nice. I like it. Smiling. What a concept. Now, let's try this. Go from this state into a state of being bored and tired. Bored and tired. You know, kind of like you were before we started this morning. Now get even more bored and tired. Get disgustingly bored and tired. You know, like your favorite days at work. Even more bored and tired. Come on, what would you do to get even more bored and tired? Now, in this state, imagine spending the next 2.5 days learning in this state. Then come back out of that and get energized again. Now, I got a question for you. How many feel better in this state? Somebody goes, not me, I like bored and tired. I want you to notice something. I want you to notice what you do to get bored and tired, and I want to do something else. How do you develop a muscle so you're stronger? How do you do that? What does exercise mean? It means you push that muscle beyond what it is comfortable with, right? You push it, you extend it, you push it beyond the comfort zone, and you keep doing that, and you do it through some repetitions, don't you, over and over again. And so pretty soon, what happens to that muscle? By the stimulus of pushing against something that's not easy, pushing against resistance, something that is not real comfortable, what happens to the muscle? Expands and gets stronger. And now what used to be hard to do is actually very easy to do. Isn't that true? Why do most people never develop very strong or powerful or effective muscles? Because they're not willing to push themselves beyond the level of comfort. And so they lose the power, the shape, the dynamism that comes from having that kind of muscle and the capacity that's even there. They're not tapping that capacity at all, not the capability at all. What we want to do is develop this day, today primarily, is emotional muscles. Muscles that allow you to extend and feel more emotionally than you felt before. To be able to express that to other people, would that affect your practice and your relationships? You bet. But also to expend them in your personal relationships, and most importantly, so that you get the juice. There is no greater tragedy than for you to go out and change and help all these people in the world and help them to heal and not get the joy from it at the level you deserve. Now, a lot of you say, well, Mr. Robbins, that's very nice, but I feel very good. I do. I enjoy my work. I'm talking about a new level of depth. It's like I'm trying to describe to you what a rose smells like, and you've never smelled one before. Some of you. Some of you have, and you're, yeah, I want more. I want to make it deeper and better. Wherever you are, let's go for it from there. But what you got to do is first do this, and you got to condition it. So let's condition ourselves emotionally. If you're in this state of being bored and tired, you know what's happening to the practice. You know what's happening to people around you. And plus, everything goes slowly. Nothing feels good. And there's no value. You don't feel a sense of value or meaning in your life. So there's a problem, though. You go into these states. How many agree you would go in these states? Maybe not that extreme, but you go into these states on a regular basis. All you have to do is look at the emotions you wrote down, and you can see this is probably one of them or something related to it, or going in the state leads to those emotions. What we have to do is condition ourselves that we start going to these states to have our body immediately come out. Very much like if I said to a lot of you, Winston tastes good like a... That's been off the air for 16 years, and you still respond like Pavlov's dog. That's called an anchor. You have a conditioned response to something, okay? Another example of an anchor would be a spinning red light in your rearview mirror. How many get immediate state change? Okay? That's also known as an anchor. Now, you had to be conditioned to know how to respond to that spinning red light. You had to have experiences where you had intense feelings, you saw the red light, intense feelings, saw the red light. Like Ivan Pavlov and the dogs, remember him? How many remember studying him in school, right? What did he do? Took these dogs, didn't feed them for several days, created what we call a need, right? They saw food, boy, bam. They saw it, smelled it, well, they're in state. They have this intense excitement, right? Hunger, saliva, rings a bell, saliva, rings a bell, saliva, ring a bell. So pretty soon, does he need the food anymore? No, he's created what we call an anchor. Now when he rings the bell, the dog's nervous system is stimulated and has the saliva, just like it was food. We also have a bunch of conditioned anchors in our world. Some of them empower us, right? We see somebody we like, and wow, or our whole body, everything lights up. Also, we have some where we get negative anchors. Somebody says something, we get angry right away. It may not even be them. Have you ever responded to somebody angrily about something you said, and they said, I didn't mean that? You said, yes, I did. How many of you have ever done something like this? Then you were at the result of a negative anchor. So we're going to learn a little bit over the next 9 months on how to totally change any anchor you have, anything, so that you're in control of your life. But what I want you to do right now is create a little anchor for yourself, a little way of conditioning yourself, so if you start to collapse out, you put yourself back in a peak state. Would that be valuable, yes or no? Great, then let's try it. So sit up in your chair with lots of energy. Come on, tons of energy. More, more, more. Oh, come on, even more than that, guys. Come on, wake your bodies up. We need some energy out there. Make some noise. Come on, let's hear some noise out there. Come on, 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 come on. Okay? Okay? Stay energized now. Stay energized. And when I say go bored and tired, I want you to go bored and tired. And when I slap my hands together, I want you to snap yourself back out and stay energized. Ready? Bored and tired. Energized. Some of you have to be faster than that, trust me. The idea is to snap yourself back. So if you start to do it, your nervous system gets a jolt. Stay energized. Now stay energized. A little noise as well. Come on, come on, come on. Feeling good? Okay. Feeling good? Feeling good? Bored and tired. Energized. Bored and tired. Energized. Bored and tired. Energized. Faster. Bored and tired. Energized. Bored and tired. Energized. Energized. Tricked you. Now notice something. Who determines whether you're bored and tired or energized? No, not me. You do. Listen, a speaker can be boring, and you don't have to be bored. You can be sitting back here in this energized state going, isn't it amazing how he's able to bore so many people simultaneously? You determine it by the way you use your body. Now notice, what's the first thing you do to get bored and tired? Ready? Go. Bored and tired. Energized. What's the first thing you do to get bored and tired? Slump. There's a clue. What else? Head goes down. What else? Eyes go down. What else? Breathing shallow. What else? You begin to drool a little bit. See, does this look like a state you could really learn a lot in? We'd really like to help you. That's a little extreme example of how some people live. So what we're going to ask you to do is this. You want to keep your energy high. Does it make sense if you're in this state for the next 2.5 days, you'll learn a lot more and have a lot more fun? Yes or no? Yes. Great. Then look at the person next to you and show the person next to you what you look like when you're in your normal, everyday, peak living experience state. Show them what you look like. Now, if at any time you see the person next to you not in that peak living experience state, your job is to change their state by changing their physiology or focus. Do whatever it takes. Kiss them, slap them, whatever. Tease them, harass them. All those want to support the person next to you by being an example and by supporting them and being in a top state. Say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion is carried. Democratic process here. So the bottom line is, what we really want to do then is we want to conduct our physiology in a way that really produces the states and behaviors that we want. That's it. We want to do that on an ongoing basis and develop some new habits of expressing ourselves. And by doing that, we'll have new habits of emotion, and you'll be able to extend your 12 massively. But see, those 12 are limited because you have a limited number of gestures and movements and ways of expressing, facial expressions. See, if I get you to create some tension in your body, try this. Create some tension in your body, and then put a big smile on your face while you're doing it, and notice what it becomes. How many feel a little bit of excitement when you do that? Raise your hand if you feel excitement. Yeah, see, tension and excitement aren't that much different. There's just a few different muscles that are moved slightly different, and they fire off different neurotransmitters in the brain. That's where that change happens. Interesting, huh? So if you want to change the way you feel, realize you know how to do it through physiology. You've been doing it for years, but maybe you can do it now in a positive way. Maybe you don't have to use something else that maybe doesn't enhance your life to do it. And then on the focus side, how do we change what we're focusing on? Well, what causes us to focus on things on a regular basis is certain beliefs we have, right? About how we're supposed to be, how life's supposed to be. We have these rules. And so what happens is we funnel everything through those sets of rules. If it doesn't fit in that, we get kind of uptight about it because we know how things are. But a lot of times, while our beliefs can really empower us, sometimes they create limits around us as well. And what we need to learn to do is ask ourselves the question, does this belief empower or disempower me? If it disempowers me, maybe I let go of it and look at a new belief that will empower me. And we're going to do some of that work as well. But the bottom line is we want to pay attention to our beliefs. We want to pay attention to our focus. How you feel determines what you focus on. If you want to get depressed now, it's easy. All you have to do is slump into a depressed state and focus on something that once happened to you that really upset you. How many of you have something in your deep, dark past that if you focused on it, you could feel upset about it? How many could do that? Great. How many have managed to pull this off in the past? That is, think about the past when it wasn't even happening and get upset about it, like once again. How many have ever done that again? Isn't that intelligent? Or what's another way you could feel down and depressed? How else could you do it? Oh, you could look for something in your life presently that seems to be upsetting. Or you could even make something up that hasn't even happened yet and feel bad about it in advance. How many of you have ever done this intelligent thing? Simultaneously, could you feel ecstasy right now if you wanted to? Could you feel like you were in a state of ecstasy, yes or no? Yes, how would you do that? You could change your body into like the way it would feel if it was an ecstasy. What else could you do? You could focus on times when you were in ecstasy. How many have ever been in ecstasy? Let me just see your hands. I want to identify the people, the right people to talk to in the room. Okay. Yes. You could remember times during your ecstasy. You could focus on things that would make you feel ecstatic now. Or you could think of things that may happen in the future and feel good about them in advance. It's all up to you. What you focus on, you will feel. Period. Focus equals reality. If you change your focus, you instantly change your experience of reality. You instantly change how you feel, how you think, how you function, and your ability. If I asked you in a moment, we're going to bring people up here in a few moments, one by one, on the stage. You're each going to get a speech. You'll notice that some people in the room begin to get what I call a state change as we discuss this. Because what happens is they start focusing on, oh my gosh, what if I don't succeed? They start asking themselves questions. By the way, if you want to put in your notes, the way to change focus again is to ask yourself a question. Questions control the mind's focus. But when I learned that one day, I was trying to figure out, how do I control my mind? Because I learned all this stuff about affirmations, right? Did you ever learn that? Somebody said, Tony, you want to be happier? Here's what you do. You go, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. So I did one. I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And then my brain went, BS. That didn't do it because there wasn't something to be happy for. But when I started asking myself, what am I happy about? My brain would go, nothing. And I said, well, if I wanted to be happy, what could I be happy about? And you know what? If you ask yourself that question, when you ask a question, think of it this way. There's going to be an answer brought forward. I don't care what it is. Ask and you shall receive. Your brain's like the ultimate computer. Whatever you ask for, it'll dig in there and manufacture, if necessary, something to give you an answer to. If you ask expecting a real answer. So if you type in a question on the screen of your life, you'll get the answer. So if you say, what am I really happy about? Brain may say nothing. What could I be happy about? It'll come up with things. And as you focus on them, you really do feel happy. It's not artificial like a pump-up job. That's the power of questions versus affirmations. Nothing wrong with affirmations. Where affirmations work is when you use your body when you do them. You go, yes, I feel excited. If you use your body, it's not just what you're saying, it's the fact that you're using your body in a new way that changes your state. So affirmations are fine, but questions also are equally powerful. And you know what? You're always asking yourself questions. Thinking is nothing but the process of asking and answering questions, and you're doing it constantly, aren't you? And right now, if you said yes, that's because you asked yourself a question. If you said no, it's because you asked yourself a question. See, one day I was realizing that our whole life, what we feel, is based on one thing: how we evaluate things. Isn't that true? How come W. Mitchell ran for lieutenant governor of Colorado? He placed third, by the way. But he's absolutely totally happy in his life. Wonderful place. And John Belushi is dead. What's the difference between those two people? Well, one thing is life. But the difference is the way they evaluated what things meant to them in their life. See, Belushi took all this incredible love that people gave him. Like, how many of you like John Belushi a lot? Thought he was really funny. Look at this, almost the whole room of people. God, had millions of people loved him. But he managed to take all that stuff in and evaluate it in a way where that didn't matter. What mattered was there's certain things he wasn't able to do that he wanted to do at that moment. And because he could do it, he tried to change it through drugs, changing his physiology, artificially. And he's gone. All because he didn't learn to master that first lesson we talked about mastering of his own emotions. He tried to go on the outside to do it. So if we're going to take control, if we're going to shift what's going on in our lives, questions are a place to do it because they change what we're focusing on. We got to ask questions. And W. Mitchell asked better questions. You can ask better questions. And when you ask them, you'll direct your mind. You'll get a different focus, a different state, and a different behavior. It's like, what if your kids are doing something and they knock something off? You're in the grocery store and they reach for an apple, let's say, in the produce department, and all the apples come down. How do you respond to that? Someone runs. Okay, for her the meaning was, I'm in trouble. Some people yell at their kid. Some people kind of laugh and help pick it up. What's the difference? All depends on what you focus on. If you focus on how inefficient that is, then you'll be really upset. Or how stupid your child is, or what people may say, or you focus on another one of life's adventures, or you focus on what's funny about this. Will you find something funny if you ask yourself that question? Yeah. People say oftentimes, someday we'll look back and laugh at this. Why wait? Why not look back and laugh now, right? That's my view, right? Step back and look. Yeah, that's pretty funny, huh? See, but we control that by questions. We control that by the focus of our mind. We change our focus, we change our reality. And some of our beliefs keep us focusing on negative things. Let me give you an example. Here's what I want you to do. When I say now, I want you to look around this room and see everything you can see that is brown or black. Brown or black, as fast as you can, brown or black, everything. Clothing, people's eyes, hair, anything. Brown or black, nothing but brown or black. Brown or black, brown or black, brown or black, brown or black. Quick, 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 quick. Close your eyes. With your eyes closed now, tell me every single thing in this room that's green. Raise your hand if you see a lot more brown and black than you see green. Raise your hand if that's true. And no kidding. Open your eyes and look for green now. Anywhere you can, look for green. Green, 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 green. Anywhere you can see green. Raise your hand if you see a lot more green now. Raise your hand. How come? Because we get what we look for. If you look for things in yourself, like what's terrible about yourself, you will find them. You look for somebody else, you can make them wrong and find it, no doubt. You want to find what's wrong with your patients as people, not just the challenges you're trying to help them with, you can find it. You can find it in any person, anywhere, including yourself. You get what you look for. If you look for brown, if you look for feces, you will find it. If you look for green, if you look for growth, if you look for expansion, if you look for what there is to love, you'll find that also. It all depends on what questions are you asking habitually in your life. That's it. Because there are some questions you ask habitually, and they are shaping the emotions you wrote down on your page. Some people's questions are, why me? And you know what? A lot of questions have built into them something we call presuppositions. You know what a presupposition is, right? People say, how come this always happens to me? What's the presupposition? Always. And you know what? As soon as you ask, how come this always happens to me, your brain will dig through every possibility and give you an answer to that question. Because you're a jerk and you're stupid. Right? Just like, how come I can't lose weight? Because you're big, right? Whatever you ask for, you're going to get. And the problem is most of our questions are happening unconsciously. And yet they're controlling our habitual focus, therefore how we feel and how we behave every area of our life. And if you want to be more successful, find someone who's successful in a particular area and find out what questions they ask themselves. You find somebody's happy, I model people. Do you know what modeling means? It means if someone's getting a result, I like to go and find out what are they doing inside their head, with their body, and with their behavior that gets that result over and over again. That's my job. So I don't care what it is. I did it at the Army. I found people the best at what they did in the world. No one could duplicate them. I duplicated them in 3 days and taught them how to get anybody to do what they did. That's modeling. I modeled financially. I modeled emotionally. I modeled people that were successful, and I used their strategies, because there's 2 ways to learn in life. One is your own experience. There's a problem with that. It takes a long time to get. Plus, by the time you get it, you're old and very wise. I thought, I don't want to be old and wise. I want to be young and wise, and I'll always be young, because young is what's going on here more than it is chronological or age. And so the bottom line is, you can learn by other people's experience as a second tool. And if you learn by other people's experience, you compress time. When you compress time, you get results that are far beyond what anybody else could possibly expect. Because now you learn 10 years of a person's experience in a few days. See, that's what will change your whole life. So what we want to do actually this weekend, I should say this for starters, is what we're trying to do is take the best of what we learn. I'm doing the best of all the things I've learned from literally 250,000 people I've worked with, all the books, tapes, seminars, and elements I've worked with, teachers, and try and jam as much of it as we can into a day that will give you emotional and physical mastery of your life. And then we're going to start using that over and over again and then expanding on the use of it over and over. So as far as the questions are concerned, what we want to do is make sure we ask questions that empower versus disempower. And if you're asking questions like, why does this always happen to me? What happens is it does. Or if you ask yourself questions that create doubt, like how many of you sometimes lack confidence in what you do? I'm curious. You know why? You ask questions like, can I really do this? What if it doesn't work? And what if I screw it up? As I started to say earlier, if I started to bring you up on stage, some of you start to go, well, what if that doesn't work? What if it doesn't happen? What if I was standing in the back of the room right before we started and said, what if I screw up? What if I forget where I was? What if this happens? What if that happens? I freak out. But that's not what I do. What I focus on is, what can I give? What would these people really want? What do they want? What do they not know they want they probably will love having? You know, what is our relationship going to be probably by the end of the 3 days? And I'm focusing on how I know our relationship will be and what some of the changes some of you will make are. That makes me feel incredible. So when I get up here, I'm in a better state to share with you. So we want to learn to ask questions that empower versus disempower. And if you want to give other people a gift, one of the easiest way to give people a gift is ask them a question that makes them feel good. Would that be a question like, well, what's screwed up in your life? Do people ask that kind of stuff? Some people say, hey, tell me what's messed up? What's the problem? What's the problem? See, that presupposes the problem. Instead, somebody could say, well, what's going on and what's a good solution? Where would your focus want to be? When there's a problem comes up, do you want to focus on the problem or the solution? Solution. We're going to teach you to spend 10% of your time on the problem to define it, 90% of your time on the solution. For most people, it's in reverse, and that's why they don't turn things around. So what are some of the questions, think in your own mind, that you ask yourself that create some of those feelings? I wonder if you're aware of them. I guarantee you by the end of the weekend, you'll be better at catching the questions you ask. But there's certain questions that create those emotions. We want to catch them while they're little so we can learn to change the focus, change the way we feel, change how we behave, and therefore the final results we get inside our life. So we're going to teach you to ask different questions. We've got a process for you that's going to help you find more of what your vision is for your life, what's more important for you, so you can get that why that can change it all. Now what we want to do along this flow is I want to come back and tell you what I was started here with words. Look at the emotions you wrote down again. Think about how they make you feel. As you look at those different emotions, here's what I'm going to suggest to you. I suggest to you that the reason you're feeling those feelings is not because that's necessarily what's happening in your life, but because things are happening in your life that may be somewhat pleasurable or somewhat painful, but these are the primary words that are part of your habitual vocabulary. Think of this like a conveyor belt. You got a couple of words here. Emotions come in and have to be funneled. I suggest to you that you don't use a lot of other words to describe how you feel besides those. That's why you came up with those words. I suggest to you more specifically this, listen carefully, that the words you use create your experience. Put this in your notes if you would. The labels that I give to my experience become my experience. The labels that I give to my experience become my experience. The labels that I give to my experience become my experience. Let me give you an example, and let me tell you how this concept came to me. I'm in a meeting one day. I've got a partner there, and I've got a good friend. We're all sitting together discussing something. Somebody comes in the room and shares some information that affects all of us equally in a not a very positive way, okay? All three of us are there. We all respond totally differently to the same information that really equally affects us all. And my friend, who's next to me here, my partner rather, goes nuts. I mean, he goes into absolute rage when he gets this information. I mean, almost out of control, he's so angry. I get this unique feeling I call pissed off. It's a California technical term. I'm pissed off, but I'm not enraged, but I'm angry, okay? Very angry, no doubt about it. My friend here looks mildly concerned. Now, all three of us have the same thing happening to us. And in the middle of all this stuff, even though I was upset, I noticed that we're all having a different experience, and I'm always noticing human behavior, right? So my brain went, hey, what's going on here? How come we're all having the same experience, but we're radically responding differently? I asked the question. Keep asking those questions, you get answers. So I noticed something. Well, my friend here is really enraged. My thought was, he's enraged, he's mildly concerned, I'm kind of in between. What is the difference here? As I talked with my friend, I found out what it is. He gets enraged whenever he gets information like that because his brain believes that, boy, when he gets upset, he can handle anything. Interesting. So he links up, if you get upset, it will equal more strength, which means eventually you'll have more pleasure. How many follow that thinking? Okay? Now when I say follow it, I don't mean agree it, but follow what I'm saying about that. Okay? Great. Now my friend here, first of all, me, I have a different belief. My belief is, if I get upset, I'm sharp as a tack, I can handle anything, but also I can be sharp as a tack and handle anything without being upset. I can do it either way. You get me upset, I'll be that way. You get me focused, I'll be that way. You ask me to, I can be that way. So I feel like I got plenty of choices. So I don't want to avoid being angry, but I don't need to get into it in order to get my power. My buddy here, his belief is this. If you get up, and I couldn't understand why he's never upset. I turned to him, I said, you know, I've known you all these years. I've never seen you really upset. Do you ever get upset? He said, no, I never get really upset. I said, well, that time when the IRS came, he's a very successful businessman, and they confiscated $250,000 that's his, that they eventually have to give back to him. It was totally wrong. Took it away for 2 years. I said, that would piss me off. Right? I said, didn't that make you angry? He said, no, it annoyed me. I said, annoyed you? He said, yeah, it was kind of annoying. Yeah. I looked at him, I thought, annoyed, that word was like so bizarre. I don't think I've ever used it. I thought to myself, I've never used the word annoyed to describe how I felt. I thought, and maybe that's why I've never felt that way. I never use the word, therefore I never feel that way. Interesting. Interesting. I thought, I wonder what happened if next time I had an experience I used to call pissed off and I called it annoyed. I wonder what happened. So I tried it. I started going, I'm annoyed. You know what I did? It like fried my brain a little bit, right? It interrupted my pattern. I was in the middle of a pattern, and by calling it annoyed, it changed the pattern. How many can see that? So I thought, what are some other ways I could do it? What are some other bizarre words that I would never use to describe my experience? It would totally change the way I feel. And I thought, I'm peeved. Peeved? Right? So next time I was going to say, I'm pissed off. I went, this peeves me. And what's so funny is I started to laugh. I thought, if I were to habitually add these words to my active vocabulary for describing how I felt, would it in fact transform my feelings? And so what I did is I got together, and I was still searching with this thing. And the next day I was explaining it to a friend. And as I'm talking to my friend here, who's a real brilliant man, and also a gentleman who almost never gets upset. And as I explained this to him, he said, Tony, this is amazing. He said, last night I had an experience. I got to share it with you. It's like it's meant for me to have to tell you to reinforce what you're on the right track. He said, last night I'd been on the road for about 2 weeks. He speaks for my company. And he said, I came home, and he has this beautiful little home. It's very small, though, in Malibu, right on the ocean. And he comes home, and they're like, his daughter's there, her boyfriend, his brother-in-law, his wife, everybody else. And he came home in this tiny little place, and he lost it. He went through threshold. And by the way, how many of you have ever snapped at somebody? It had nothing to do with them. It was simply a state you were in. Yes. How many of you have ever been snapped at? Okay, now I got you all. Good. Bottom line is, he said, I not only lost it, he said, but I started cursing and screaming at my daughter specifically because I saw the source, and he said, it was unbelievable. He said, I just completely lost 4 little words, the whole thing. He said, he never does. His wife was so taken back by it, she started laughing hysterically. She thought he was making a joke. She thought it was what we call in our work, we call it a pattern interrupt. When you tease somebody or do something outrageous and break their pattern. She thought it was what we call a pattern interrupt. So she started to crack up hysterically, which fried his brain pretty good because he wasn't expecting that result, right? When his wife realized afterwards what had happened, she came to him and said, honey, you know, there's something really interesting I want to point out to you because you've been getting more and more angry these days. And she said, I notice you use a word to describe how you feel a lot now you didn't used to use. You keep using the word, I'm overwhelmed. She goes, honey, you've never used that word before. You used to always say, I'm overloaded. Now his daughter, give you another picture, used to be the nanny for my house, for our family. She is one of the most loving spiritual people I know. I mean, you talk about somebody who cares about people. I mean, I put her here. I mean, real close to the man upstairs. I mean, she's literally that incredible human being. But 1 or 2 days a year, she becomes a raving bitch. Excuse my French, but that's, I mean, out of control, like you can't even believe, like fire and brimstone and stuff coming out of her mouth. I mean, you can't believe it. Very much like Bob was that night. She always used the word during those times, I'm overwhelmed. And his wife pointed this out to him. He adopted her behavior when he used the word she used. I thought, is it possible? I've always taught people that if you want to change your life, the most powerful way to do it is change who you associate with. Because I can teach you everything there is to learn, but if you hang out with the wrong people, you'll be pulled off track. If you lie down with dogs, you come up with fleas. Right? That's why what we want to make sure is you're here together as a team. Your office is here together, and we work together to bring everybody up to a higher level, and we all demand more from each other and support each other. That's the value of this kind of a training. And by meeting 3 more times over the next 9 months, boy, you can't believe what will happen because we'll have that conditioning that'll really produce results that'll be lifelong. And you go back in the environment, reinforce each other, reinforce each other. It's so powerful. But I thought one of the reasons that we become like the people around is oftentimes we adopt some of their vocabulary. Can you think of some of the words your parents used that you use to this day? Emotional words? I know when I thought about it, I thought my father used to use certain words that were totally bizarre. Like my dad used to say dudes when it wasn't a popular word to say even in California. And just come home and go, dudes! But he was being totally playful. So I found myself doing that with my kids. Dudes, you know? I feel the same kind of feelings I had back then, and I didn't even realize it until I started noticing this. You get around people, you adopt their vocabulary. And as you adopt their vocabulary, you adopt some of their emotional intensity. And I started realizing I can lower my emotional intensity if I use words that do that. Instead of saying I'm enraged, like my friend here, if I say I'm annoyed, that immediately drops the emotional intensity and therefore changes the way I respond. Does this make sense to you, yes or no? I also thought you can use this for the positive. I'm an intense person. For example, I don't talk, somebody says, how's it going? Some people go, okay, pretty good. I say, outrageous, exciting, best, right? Better than you can imagine. I'm having a blast, supreme, splendid. And my metaphor for life is to live with passion. Now think about that. People around me tend to get rather intense and outrageous. You know why? Because they adopt some of my vocabulary. They all use the word passion to describe what they do. Would it feel different if you said, my passion is this, then my job is this? How many would agree it would change the way you feel if you talked about it that way on a regular basis? So we are building our own emotions and therefore our entire life by the words we habitually use and select unconsciously. So maybe we need to become conscious of it. So later on, I'm sitting with my buddy Bob, and we're talking about something else, totally different. And we're real busy, and my buddy turns to me, and Bob, and he says, Tony says, you know, I can't believe anybody in the world ever gets bored. He said, you know, boredom's not even in my vocabulary. And I went, what did you just say? You said boredom, you never experience boredom, and it's not in your vocabulary. I thought, is it possible if you don't use certain words, you don't feel certain feelings? I thought, nah, that could be possible. So I thought, what's a feeling I never feel? Depression. I never feel depression. You know why? Because a long time ago, I got so depressed, I was near the edge. And I linked up depression equals death. That's kind of painful, so I don't get depressed. I may get angry, frustrated, I may get upset, but I just don't get depressed. It's not in my brain. I never use that word to describe how I feel. Now, you know what? I may experience some of the same sensations that somebody else feels when they feel they're depressed. But because I don't call it that, I don't get the same feelings. Does that make sense? There are certain cultures in the world where they've never had a war. They don't have war in their vocabulary. They don't even have a way to, if you don't have a way to represent it, you can't feel it. See, in order to feel it, you have to represent it. If you don't use those words, you don't go into those states. That's not suppression, it's transformation. There's a difference between pushing things down versus transforming them instantaneously. And you transform them by giving it a new label. So if somebody says, I'm really upset, what I'll often say is, are you upset? Or are you worried? Or are you concerned? Or do you want to be heard? I want to be heard. Instantly it changes how they feel as they begin to put a new label on what it is. You can do this with your patients, you can do this with yourself, you can do it with your life. Here's your assignment that I want you to do. And we'll take a short break in a little bit. And that is this. I want you to identify right now some words you use habitually to describe negative feelings that intensify your negative feelings. And I want you to come up with an alternative word or two that would lower the intensity of the negative feelings. Do you follow what I'm saying? So let's say what you used to have is rage. See, so for example, my friend here in his funnel, he had things like rage, humiliated, angry, versus I had things like upset, frustrated, pissed off. First, my other friend had annoyed, peeved, curious, concerned. You see how we took the same experience in, but depending upon what little bottles we have words to put it in, it changes our experience. So pick your most intense words, and I'm not saying you can't use them. It's appropriate to use all your emotions. But I want you to have some other choices. So write down your notes, write down 3 negative words, words that intensify your negative feelings, and come up with 3 alternatives that would interrupt the pattern, make you feel humorous, or at least lower the intensity. Do that real quickly.